We'll move straight into the squadron summaries for the 23rd, and 441 records that 6 of our aircraft patrolled the center beach area, and later further 6 aircraft were scrambled, but the flight proved uneventful. In the evening, 6 aircraft took off to bomb EGI-2, but due to heavy cloud formations, it was impossible to locate the target, and all bombs were brought back to base. At the same time, 5 other aircraft dive-bombed EGI-3 at Artois, 4 bombs dropped on the target, and my run of bad luck starting yesterday with identifying some of these exact locations continues. Today, I feel like I should know EGI. I should also be able to draw some significance from Artois. I mean, of course, it's a region of France, site of a lot of World War I battles, and I just know it from schoolwork on the late medieval, but let me press on. Maybe something will occur to me that hasn't occurred to me already a little later, but I'll go to 442. And they describe the day as cloudy and not so cold this morning. Quiet morning. Kelty, Marriott, and Robillard scouring the country for riding horses. Marriott, formerly in the cavalry, rode a mare 10 miles back, bareback. On immediate readiness at 14:30, 6 airborne at 1600 hours, followed by his second 6 on patrols, and quiet. Up at 21:10, following 443 Squadron when their aircraft got 2 Huns. Our boys chased 1 who got away into the clouds, back at 22:30, and 443, weather clear and warm, visibility good, squadron on immediate readiness during the afternoon but no scrambles. Along with 442 Squadron, 12 aircraft took part in a sweep over the fighting lines. 5 Focke-Wulf 190s were sighted near Alençon, dodging in and out of cloud. 2 were shot down, both by the commanding officer, Squadron Leader McLeod, being his 19th enemy plane destroyed. 1 damage was claimed by Flight Lieutenant Schenk. The CO used only 26 rounds of 20mm ammunition in the entire engagement. And I only found this after the fact in the last stages of editing the video together, but I'll insert it here. The painting Normandy Nemesis by Robert Taylor, shown here, depicts this exact engagement, and you can see Squadron Leader McLeod's aircraft in the foreground. So straight into the missions, it's just a lot of uneventful stuff until we get to the 2110 sweep. So starting with 441, we have at 0530, the section patrolled the center beach area, nothing to report. Up again at 1010 to 1050, and this one is scramble. This section took part in an uneventful scramble. Then 442 gets airborne at 1615 to 1655, and this is 6 Spitfires on patrol, uneventful, nil enemy aircraft opposition, nil flak, weather 8/10 to 7000, visibility good above 4000 and hazy to 4000. And then, immediately after that, another section of 6 up at 1620, 6 on patrol, uneventful, nil enemy aircraft opposition, nil flak, and the same, more or less, description of the weather conditions there. Now, 441 gets airborne on this very, very puzzling to me dive bombing mission. I have been obsessing over this for the last 24 hours. It's 1850 to 1940. And this is 6 aircraft up on a dive bombing mission. Targets at Artois were dive bombed. At least 3 direct hits were observed. And I have the route for this one going up to the old Artois region of France. And it was described as EGI sites. EGI. And that doesn't correlate to any acronym that I have in any book or document I possess. The answer is just, it's going to be so simple. I suspected at first that these were radar sites, maybe for like ground intercept, electronic ground intercept or something like that, or possibly listening posts. We've seen examples of both of those types of targets being bombed, and this is the sort of thing that comes up when I come from my background as delving heavily into U.S. Army Air Force operations, then coming here. This is really my first experience looking closely at RCAF or Canadian operations, and the all-new set of acronyms and new set of jargon. The answer is going to come to me. It always does in cases like this, but yeah, for now I just have no idea what these targets were that they bombed or where they were. I have lots and lots of guesses, but nothing I'm particularly happy with. Now, the other 6 were up at 1850, and they went up against a target. Weather conditions made dive bombing impossible, and the mission was therefore abandoned. In either case, that is another mystery to go down on the list, and as I figure these things out, I'll go back and do a short video, insert it into the playlist with an answer, so depending on when you watch this, the next video up for you might be the answer, so I won't worry about that anymore for now. I'll just step straight to another patrol. This is where the interesting stuff happens on the day. I'm actually going to start with 442 Squadron and their account. They had a less eventful time, although I will get one detail from 443 before we get into that. 443 begins by describing weather cloudy and warm, clearing in the afternoon. 12 aircraft took part in a sweep with the 442 Squadron, led by Wing Commander Johnson. 442 Squadron patrolled above the cloud, while 443 Squadron patrolled underneath, and cloud was 10/10ths and 1,000 feet thick at 4,000 feet. So with that, I'll skip over to the 442 Squadron account, and they describe 5 Focke-Wulf 190s seen heading southeast near Alençon at 4,000 feet, right there in the clouds. 2 destroyed, 1 damaged by the other squadrons. 100 plus well-dispersed MET in the woods. At this location, flak, accurate, moderate, heavy, and light from Villers-Bocage. Cloud 10/10ths at 3 to 4,000 feet, seen to disperse south of Alençon. Visibility good. Now back to the 443 Squadron account, and they continue. Through a hole in the cloud near Alençon, 5 Focke-Wulf 190s were sighted. During the melee which followed, they were chased above and below the clouds several times. 2 were destroyed by Squadron Leader McLeod using only 26 rounds of 20mm ammunition. 1 was damaged by Flight Lieutenant Schenk, who closed to a very close range but was unable to destroy the Jerry. Hits were seen on the fuselage and the wing roots of the Focke-Wulf 190. Flight Lieutenant Prest took a few squirts but was handicapped by stoppages, or in other words, his guns jammed. 2 aircraft returned early with minor unserviceabilities. So in this case, we see 2 squadrons flying, 1 high, 1 low, and then they mix up with the same group of Focke-Wulf 190s right here at Alençon. Now this is where we can get into an account from Johnny Johnson, and it's a few pages long actually, very detailed, but I'll pick and choose the parts that apply here. Now I'll begin with, after crossing the enemy's flak belt just south of the Con Bao Road, I dropped the squadron to the base of the cloud, for I did not want to be silhouetted from above against such a telltale white background. We had just left Alençon on our port side when I saw a bunch of bandits at 3 o'clock. There were a formation of Focke-Wulfs and traveling in the same direction as ourselves, and like me, their leader had elected to fly just below the cloud base so that he could not be bounced from above. Under these circumstances, I had only 2 methods of attack to choose from. I could take the squadron down to ground level and try to creep up on them from below with an attack into their vulnerable bellies, or I could climb through the cloud, fly on the same course as the enemy, and strike from the sun when they appeared from the broken cloud cover. I adopted the high tactics, and with throttles wide open we climbed through the cloud and swung high into the sky. Obligingly, the enemy leader held his original course, and the Focke-Wulfs swept into view. Telling Blue Leader to attack the aircraft on the port side, I took the 6 Spitfires of Red Section down in a fast dive on the starboard Focke-Wulfs. As the range closed, I glanced back over my shoulder, a thing I did automatically to make certain that no enemy aircraft were above us. Wally was on my starboard side, and referring here to Squadron Leader McLeod, some 200 yards out, and the 190s were now nearer to him than to me. He was well within range and hit a turning 190 with his very first few cannon shells. Flames leapt from the cockpit, the aircraft fell over onto its back and dived vertically into the ground. There was yet another 190 ahead of me. He was swinging to port, but not too steeply. An easy shot, just a little deflection. One glance back to make sure no one was on my tail, all clear. Eyes back on the 190, thumb on the firing button, but already cannon shells were tearing into his engine cowling and wing root. Mortally damaged, the 190 joined some of its comrades in the funeral pyres below, but I had not fired a shot. The 190 was attacked from below, and a Spitfire zooms into the air 100 yards ahead of me. Another search, as I had not fired my guns, but the enemy aircraft had either fled or were burning in the fields. Back at St. Croix, I walked over to Wally's Spitfire. The armorers were already rearming it. "That 190 of yours was a good piece of shooting, Wally. I suppose you clobbered the second?" "Yes, I got a couple of them. Did you see the second one, Chief?" This last with a disarming grin. "I not only saw it, Wally, I was about to shoot it down," I replied. "Hard luck, sir. I saw a Spitfire behind a 190, but thought I'd better make sure of it. Of course, I didn't know it was you." And after that, he describes talking to the armorers and learning that only 13 rounds from each cannon had been fired, and he describes that as a remarkable display of both flying and shooting skill, and as far as I know, the performance has never been equaled. So yet another good showing by the wing here, both squadrons down, 2215 and 2240. Last landings of the day, and I had marked out these vehicles right here, well dispersed in the woods, and you can see, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but you can see the forest that these vehicles were dispersed in. And I hadn't intended to on this one, but I did just pause and throw down some imageries to see how it looks. I was driven to do that, I suppose, because I enabled the map and saw this road network there within the forest. And I know that looks are always deceiving when it comes to forest, but it looked so impenetrable right now. But there was a road network, and you can see that outlined here in the image, and craters, and this is probably artillery, pockmarking the location in this image from I believe it was the 5th of August. So that's the last of the things I wanted to look at for today, although now I am curious to see who this was. So looking at the overlay, this is the German positions as of about the 1st of July. So in the rear areas of both the 2nd SS Panzer Corps and 1st SS Panzer Corps. And we are going to run into, no, I don't think we're going to run into this location until August. I was about to say we're about to get into the Battle of the Odon, but that's going to be right here. And we're going to actually get into that pretty quickly here within the next 2 or 3 days and look in more detail at this little pocket that we see emerging. But that is a story for, I believe, starting on the 26th is where I'm going to pick that up. So that will wrap up the 23rd, and we'll move on to the 24th. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.